We took the world's most child-friendly river cruise. In 1 week, we visited 3 countries. Unlike other river cruise ships, which are mostly aimed at adults, A-Rosa Sena has a kids club, kids pool and family cabins that sleep 5. From child-friendly dining in the restaurants to the spa where kids are allowed too, this ship offers a fantastic family holiday. But when we stepped on board, I was shocked to find out that we were the only British guests on the ship. Almost everyone else was German or Austrian. I'm surprised that such an amazing holiday that's just a 1-hour flight from the UK isn't more popular with British people. So in this video, I'll show you exactly what a family river cruise on A-Rosa Sena is like so that you can decide if it's the kind of holiday that you'd like too. Let's start the journey in Cologne, where we boarded the ship for our cruise on the River Rhine, calling it Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Dordrecht and Antwerp. Most river cruises aren't suitable for children, so this was the first time the kids had ever seen a river cruise ship. And this wasn't just any river cruise ship, it was the A-Rosa Sena, a hybrid diesel and electric ship that's environmentally friendly as well as child friendly. The A-Rosa Sena is much smaller than the ocean cruise ships we're used to, with just 5 decks and space for just 280 guests. Here's a standard cruise ship that you might be familiar with, P&O Cruises Iona, which accommodates 5,200 guests. And here's A-Rosa Sena, which accommodates just 280. Iona has 18 decks, Sena has just 5. Stepping on board, all guests on A-Rosa river cruises are handed a fresh rose, which you can keep in a vase in your cabin. This is something that would never happen on a mega ship. Check-in was just like checking into a hotel, and we were given the key to room 242, which was just a few steps away from the reception desk. While this ship does have some family rooms down on deck 1, we had a standard room on deck 2. Our room had a double bed with 2 duvets, which is actually a really good idea, and a small sofa bed, which is suitable for kids aged 6 or younger. If you have 4 people or an older child, you'll need a family room, and I'll show you one of those shortly. Our room had a huge TV with loads of English channels as well as the German ones. There was plenty of storage space for the 3 of us, and the bathroom was really spacious too. The kids even had their own life jackets, although obviously we never needed them. One thing that sets this ship apart from most other river cruise ships is that the rooms have balconies. Most river cruise ships have French balconies, which is basically a big window that opens. Even on the world's most luxurious river cruises, the top suites have big windows rather than proper balconies, but our cabin had an actual balcony with 2 chairs. We loved our balcony, and it was a great place to watch the sunset with a cocktail. I do also want to quickly show you this family room, which I was allowed to take a peek at. I love the bunk beds with the curtains. This little table for the kids is cute, and the bathroom has 2 sinks with a toilet in a separate room. After taking a good look at this room as well as our own, we headed straight up to deck 5 to take in the views. The kids were itching to get into the pool, but first, let's take a look around the sun deck. There are so many sun lounges here that even on a hot day with everyone on board, you've got a choice of places to sit. It winds me up no end when people put towels on sun lounges and then disappear for hours at a time. But thankfully on this ship, that was never a problem. And rather than each of the sunbeds being crammed together, there was so much space and even little tables for your drinks. There were lots of tables and chairs too, as well as some deck chairs. So you can choose exactly how horizontal you want to be. There's a walking track that goes all around the deck, and this pop-up bar, which I'll tell you more about shortly. We loved this shaded area where you can play bowls, and there's also a game called cornhole where you throw beanbags into a hole. The only thing missing, I think, was a giant chessboard, because we do really love a game of chess. This circle is a skylight that lets light into the centre of the ship. If you're wearing a dress and you walk over it, be aware though that people below can definitely see you. I saw more nakedness than I ever expected to on this cruise, and I'll tell you more about that a little bit later in the video as well. At the back of the ship, you could go downstairs to this lovely seating area, which was a good place to sit if it was windy on the top deck. There's also a similar area at the front of the ship, which I think was even nicer. This space has amazing views, comfy chairs and even some day beds. We were feeling a little thirsty at this point, so we headed inside and ordered cocktails. All our drinks were included in the price of the cruise, which is fantastic because this lady can really get through some mocktails. The kids really couldn't wait any longer to jump into the pool, so we headed back upstairs and I enjoyed my cocktail in the sun while they squirted each other with water guns. After another drink and some fruit and cake, it was time to head downstairs to the winery for our mandatory safety briefing before we could set sail on our week-long round trip from Germany to Holland and Belgium. We watched the video on the screen, and being the only English speakers, it was a private screening just for us. As the briefing ended, the ship set sail, so we went back up to the sun deck for the sail away. We really enjoyed waving at the other ships, but the highlight of our departure was definitely sailing under bridges. With just 5 decks, the ship is small enough to fit under most bridges on the Rhine without chopping off anyone's head, but there are some bridges that are much lower than this one. We discovered that when the ship had to pass under low bridges, the sun deck would be closed, the railings would be taken down, everything would fold down to be flat, and even the wheelhouse would shrink down. The pop-up bar disappears too and becomes a flat circle on the floor. It's really fascinating how it works, and going under bridges was a lot of fun. Even with the sun deck closed, we could still enjoy the river views from our balcony before going for dinner. These kids are among the world's fussiest eaters, and as we walked into the very posh looking restaurant, I was a little bit nervous about what food would be available for them. But I needn't have worried. All meals are served buffet style on A-Rosa ships, so they could just choose the things that they liked, and there was plenty that they liked. Many of the meat dishes are cooked freshly in front of you, but I was delighted to discover Vegan Corner, which had a selection of different things that I could tuck into each day. There's also a kids section, so we were all set. Families have reserved tables in the same section, which means that you never have to worry about finding a big enough table or annoying other diners that don't have children with them. The food was amazing, as were the river views that we enjoyed while we ate. I've always loved sea views, but I've recently discovered that river views can be even better. As well as the market buffet, there's also a specialty restaurant called Sena Grill, which we enjoyed later in the cruise. After dinner, we discovered the selection of board games and headed outside with our favourite one, chess. I had a nice glass of wine and Leonie had another mocktail. Adam only ever drinks water, so it was an easy choice for him. We watched the sunset over the river, and then as the weather cooled, we headed into the lounge and had a dance as well as a game of cards. We returned to our room to find that the sofa had been turned into a bed for Adam, and we all went to sleep. The next day, we opened the curtains to discover another lovely river view. With a river cruise, you never really know what you're going to get when you open the curtains in the morning, and on some days, the view wasn't quite as nice as this one. We headed upstairs to the restaurant for breakfast, which is open between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. The restaurant is really beautiful with lots of different areas, and you can sit wherever you like, although we did enjoy having our own table and we always liked having the same waiter. The breakfast buffet has everything you could ever want, with 3 kinds of eggs, plus an omelette station, cereals, healthy options, and some not so healthy options too. There was also sparkling wine available at breakfast, which is never something that I've seen before at breakfast time. I was really happy to see that Vegan Corner was also present at breakfast time, and there were 3 different plant milks to choose from, which was excellent. I made myself a vegan version of a traditional German breakfast. We weren't due to arrive into Amsterdam until the afternoon, but the kids club was open. Leonie and Adam loved the kids club, and they wanted to spend as much time as they could there. They liked that there was always a choice of activities, but they didn't have to join in. They could just join in if they wanted to, or just play. All the other children in the kids club were German speakers, but they did make friends with a couple of older children who spoke very good English. And there were also some English books for them to read. The crew members working in the club spoke very good English too. With some rare time to myself, I went straight to the spa. It's got a jacuzzi, sauna, and a relaxation room with a fireplace. Call me naive, but I didn't know that the dress code in the spa would be totally nude. Everyone was naked, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable in my bikini, but I probably would have felt more uncomfortable if I was naked as well. Soon enough, it was time for lunch. I had a selection of vegan Asian style things from the buffet, and then we watched the ship sail into Amsterdam. We sailed past the Costa Fabulosa and Holland America Line's New Statendam, and they both looked absolutely huge compared to our little river ship. The ship docked outside of the city, but there was a coach to take us into the centre. To leave the ship, we had to take our shore leave cards from reception. This is how they know who's left the ship and who's still on board. We didn't have long in Amsterdam before the coach back, but there was just enough time to play glow-in-the-dark golf and look around a few shops. Back on board, and Adam went to the kids club while Leonie started on a jigsaw of Amsterdam that she'd had her eye on for a while. Then we all enjoyed a really random selection of things from the buffet for dinner. The next day we had much longer in Amsterdam, so we visited the Nemo Science Museum. This place is amazing, and I definitely recommend that you check it out if you visit Amsterdam with kids. After a very tiring but very fun day, we got the coach back to the ship and I enjoyed a well-deserved beer. The kids were excited to see that the buffet had mouse cheese, and as always, they chose a really random selection of things that they like. After dinner, we went to the lounge and sampled a few more of the included cocktails. I love how each one has the option of alcohol or no alcohol, and there's also alcohol-free beer on tap. The ship has these coffee machines that you can use whenever you like. I couldn't see any English-style tea, although I've now started drinking fruit tea since this cruise. If you want Tetley's or PG tips, then I suggest that you do bring your own tea bags. In the evening, the shore excursion manager, Tina, would give us a talk about what to expect in the next port and what you could do there. Of course, it was all in German, so I usually gave those sessions a miss. Instead, I decided to put on my robe and sit out on my balcony to take in the views. While there wasn't much in the way of entertainment most evenings, aside from some music, snuggling under the duvet with the TV was nice too. The next day, we woke up to find that the view wasn't quite as nice as it had been so far. The ship alternates which side faces the river, and in Rotterdam, it was our turn to face the wall. We missed breakfast, which finished at 10, but luckily there was some fruit and pastries in the lounge, which would do us for a couple of hours until lunch. We watched the windows being washed, which is very amusing when you're 6. And then we decided to spend the morning relaxing on board before heading into Rotterdam after lunch. We played drafts, bowls and cornhole, and then the kids made up a game called Static Tig. They discovered that you could shuffle your feet on the AstroTurf to charge up, and then when you touched someone, they'd get a static shock. After another delicious lunch, we walked off the ship and into the centre of Rotterdam, which took us about 5 minutes. Rotterdam is such a beautiful city, and we spent time at the cube houses, the market hall and the playground. After dinner on the ship, we had an early night as we had to be up ready for our excursion at 9 a.m. the next day. The next morning in Dordrecht was our included excursion. In the other ports, excursions were available, but as with most cruises, they're pretty pricey, so we decided just to do our own thing instead. This excursion was available in German or English. As only one other lady chose the English tour, it was a very small group. Our tour guide showed us all around the town, which was very pretty, and we learnt about the history of some of the buildings. We were back on board by 11:15 and spent the rest of the day by the pool and in the spa. One thing we loved about this river cruise is that ducks would come right up to the ship, and we really enjoyed watching them. Every day at 3:30, a selection of cakes are served. You can't get ice cream in the daytime, but the kids were just as happy with the cakes, so it really didn't matter. Tonight we were treated to a meal in the Sena Grill. This is a steak and seafood restaurant which comes at an extra charge, but we spoke to the chef beforehand and he said that he would be happy to make something special for us. I had this incredible tomato, avocado and pomegranate salad, followed by a very tasty vegetable curry and some sorbet. The kids had veggie burgers and everything was absolutely delicious. It was pirate night in the kids club and all the kids came into the lounge for a pirate fashion show. Our final stop on this cruise was Antwerp, which we reached via this long yellow tunnel. We explored the city with its beautiful historic buildings, and then in the afternoon we went to Plopsa Station, which is an indoor amusement park where we had the whole place to ourselves. It was obviously term time in Belgium and it was also a sunny day, so there was literally nobody else in this amusement park apart from us and the people working the rides. We walked back through the tunnel to the ship and sailed away from Antwerp on our journey back to Cologne. As we were eating dinner, our ship entered a lock. As the wall got closer and closer to the window, Leonie had a concerned thought.
Wait, what about our balcony?
Alongside us in the lock was a huge container ship, the Santos Express, which was really interesting to see. As the ship went through another lock, we watched from our balcony while this SpongeBob SquarePants fan watched his hero on the TV. The final journey from Antwerp back to Cologne took around 24 hours. By road, this would take around 2.5 hours, but the river doesn't go a direct route. It's very windy, and A-Rosa Sena has a top speed of 12 knots or 14 miles an hour. Also, we were now going against the flow of the river. That was fine by us though, as it meant that we had a whole day to enjoy the river views as we sailed back up the Rhine. It was a little cloudy in the morning, but blankets were provided so you could still sit outside quite comfortably. We played a few board games like Ludo and our favourite chess, of course, but the kids mostly wanted to spend the day in the kids club. This was fine by me as it gave me an opportunity to catch up on some work whilst enjoying the scenery at the same time. I loved to see the other river cruise ships go by while I worked. Many of them were from river cruise companies that I'd never heard of, and maybe that's because they don't cater quite so well for English speaking guests like A-Rosa does. When another ship went past, we always waved at them and they waved back at us too. On A-Rosa ships, all the crew members speak brilliant English and the signs and menus are all in English as well as German. The only sign that did confuse us was this one on the bathroom door because we weren't sure whether this was the men's or the ladies or a unisex toilet. It turns out that this is a lady with a side ponytail and not a man with a cigar, although we did see a few men walk into the bathroom on the first day, so they were obviously as confused as us by it. We enjoyed some beautiful views along the Rhine. The scenery is pretty varied, so one moment there'll be buildings, then beaches, then windmills. Of course, some bits are nicer than others, but it's all still really interesting. And I've decided that I definitely do prefer a river view to a sea view. I didn't think I'd ever prefer anything to a sea view, but turns out I do. The kids made their own pizzas in the kids club and then ate them with their friends, so I had a very relaxing dinner alone, although they did join me for dessert. As the sun sets on our final evening, they had a party with their friends and then joined me in the lounge, where the captain said a few words and the whole crew paraded around the room where we clapped them and gave our thanks. To finish the night, we played musical bingo. Leonie's German friend Sarah helped us and we really wouldn't have managed it without her on the team. Sadly, that was the end of our trip on the A-Rosa Sena, but there's one other thing that I would like to mention because I've been asked about it a lot, and that is the cost. We booked our cruise last minute, and I really wouldn't recommend that you do that because all of the family cabins were gone. But my husband was short on annual leave anyway, so he really didn't mind sitting this one out. We did manage to get a balcony room that sleeps 3, but that's only because the small bed is only suitable for kids aged 6 and under and Adam's 6. Most families will want one of these family rooms on deck 1 instead. So let's jump on the computer and we'll price up this cruise for a family for the same week in the school holidays but next year. In May half term, the A-Rosa website is currently showing a family cabin for €4,098, which is about £3,500. Now, kids sail for free, so it doesn't matter if you have 1, 2 or 3 kids in the room, the price is the same. This price includes all of your meals and all of your drinks, so you can easily have a zero bill at the end. You'll just need some tips for crew members that you can pay in cash at the end of your cruise. There's no set amount, but A-Rosa suggests €5 to €10 per guest per day for that. You will need to budget for flights as well, but these are pretty cheap and there's always lots of flights between Cologne and the UK. If you don't like flying, you can also go by train. There's a Eurostar which will take you from London to Cologne in about 4 hours. You can book this cruise online, but honestly, it's much easier just to go to your local travel agent and get them to do it. They'll be able to package up the cruise with the flights and then you can have an atoll protected package and it just makes it simpler to do it that way. So how does this compare to a normal ocean cruise? Well, for a cruise on a Royal Caribbean ship in half term, you could probably expect to pay double that price for a family of 4 or 5 with drinks included, and you'll probably spend a lot more on board too. Larger ocean cruise ships do have a lot more to do on board, yes, but I think that the food and the level of service on this ship is the best that we've ever had, and that's important. We're lucky enough to be able to take lots of cruises with the kids, and if you're interested to see whether a Greek islands cruise might be the one for you, then check out this video next and see if that's something that you fancy.